UN 영어뉴스. Just how loud is a rocket launch? The massive thrust needed to launch a rocket into space creates a lot of noise. How much? Watch footage of the Saturn V launches during NASA's Apollo program in the 1960s and 1970s. And one thing that may strike you even more than the polyester heavy fashions and retro haircuts is just how far away the crowds of onlookers are from the main event. There were several good reasons for this, and noise was one of them. Loud sounds can kill, and few things built by humans have been as loud as the Saturn V. When Apollo astronauts blasted off on their missions to the moon, they did so with more than 3.2 miles separating them from the excited, onlooking crowds. Even at such distance, the noise was incredible. A common myth at the time was that the sound waves from the Saturn V's engines were so powerful that they melted concrete on the launch pad and set fire to grass a mile away. Both were false. NASA's measurements at the time captured the launch noise at 204 decibels. Compare that to the sound of a jet airliner taking off, which is between 120 and 160 decibels, and considered dangerous to hearing if endured for longer than 30 seconds, even 1.5 miles away. The noise from a Saturn V launch was recorded as being 120 decibels, as loud as a rock concert or a car horn at very close quarters. I'm always struck by the physicality of a launch, says Anthony Liu, a Florida cafe owner who has been watching and photographing launches since the days of Saturn V. Back in the 1970s, there was an audio device called a sense-round that was used in the disaster movies like Earthquake to create a subsonic seismic experience in the theater. Launches from up close are a bit like sense-round, says Liu. You can feel a slight tremble, then a building rumble in your chest before you can hear any actual sound. The subsonic bass frequencies make your ears crackle. After a few seconds, the sound coalesces into a roar like a massive welding torch. Last year, a team of scientists from Brigham Young University in Utah calculated just how loud Saturn V was. They came up with a remarkably similar finding to NASA's own recordings, 203 decibels. The difference between 160 and 200 odd decibels might not sound like a lot in the grand scheme of things, but it is. 170 decibels would be equivalent to 10 aircraft engines. 200 would be 10,000 engines, said Kent Gee, lead author of the study and professor of physics at the Brigham Young University at the time. Every 10 decibels is an order of magnitude increase. Artemis's SLS rocket emits a similar amount of thrust as the Apollo program's Saturn V. Was Saturn V the loudest rocket ever launched? Probably not, if you use thrust as your guide. The 35 mN meganewtons of force produced by Saturn V at launch is less than that produced by the Soviet Union's ill-fated N-1 rocket, 45 mN, which was supposed to have delivered cosmonauts to the lunar surface in the 1960s, but it was certainly loud enough that there was more to consider than just the hearing of spectators. Rockets as powerful as Saturn V were capable of causing damage to themselves from the sound waves generated from the noise of their own launch. Making sure that damage didn't happen preoccupied NASA's rocket engineers even before the Apollo program, says NASA's John Blevins, chief engineer of the Space Launch System (SLS) used for the recent Artemis program launch. One solution: the fire trenches in the launch pad are filled with water, which helps muffle some of the intense noise created when the rocket lifts off. There's a series of ground tests that we did back in the Apollo days. We did them again for Space Launch System, says Blevins, adding that NASA also built smaller models of both the rocket and the pads to gauge how their interactions produced noise. The maximum noise for the rocket itself, although you might not be able to tell if you are sitting at Banana Creek, a popular site for viewing launches, is actually about 150 feet off the ground. The plumb is spread out instead of going down a hole that has the water in it. That helps attenuate some of that noise. The water-filled fire trenches were also used for the space shuttle launch. The charismatic, boiling clouds of vapor seen in those famous old NASA rocket launches are not in fact smoke, but steam from the water vaporizing from the intense heat. The SLS is the new rocket used in the Artemis program, the one planned to take humanity further into the solar system than ever before. It is one of the most powerful rockets ever launched, with 13 times more thrust than Saturn V, as the SLS chief engineer Blevins has watched and heard its 5 engines being ground tested at the John C. Stennis Space Center in southern Mississippi The ground tests are a critical step in a rocket design's progress, says Blevins. I'm about a half mile away. I've got earplugs in, and for 600 seconds, this thing is producing just more steam than you can imagine. And when you can get that closer, you see that's one engine out of 4, and those produce less thrust than the 2 solid rocket boosters on the side. It gives you an idea just how powerful these rockets are. It's just amazing. Blevins says the SLS is quieter than Saturn V, but that noise levels are dependent on more than just the engine's thrust. There's a lot of nuances to what the people hear, like a low cloudy day, like if you had a 1,000 feet cloud ceiling. That noise will travel all the way across the state of Florida and just bounce back and forth. It really won't be easily attenuated, and so people in Tampa will hear a rocket launch if you have a little overcast day. Tampa is 3 hours drive away from the Kennedy Space Center on the other side of the Florida Peninsula. Noisier rockets may indeed be on their cards. SpaceX's Starship vehicle, intended for a proposed mission to Mars, will lift off on top of the company's Super Heavy booster. Super Heavy will, according to SpaceX, generate nearly 76 mN of thrust, more than twice that of Saturn V. If you are planning on watching it take off, earplugs sound like a very good idea.